And there's too many points to follow. The English Rosicrucians grew out of the Golden Rosicrucians, who were basically an offshoot of the Asiatic Brethren. The claim in the occult is that when the Templars were in the Holy Land, they came into contact with the Sabians or Ismailis, because the Ismailis derived their doctrines from the Sabians. The Ismailis, of which the Aga Khan today is the modern representative and leader, were a Gnostic version of Christianity. So basically, they amalgamated Kabbalah with Islam. So this is how the Templars supposedly derived their Kabbalistic doctrines. And one of the first people that they go to visit when they come back to Europe is David of Scotland, the son of Malcolm III. And they established themselves supposedly at Rosslyn Chapel, and that's how, you get the significance of Rosslyn Chapel.
Right, okay.
Another important point is that the Templars, there's only a single family with whom they intermarry. Sorry about that. There's another family with whom they intermarry when they establish themselves in Palestine. The only people that they intermarry with, non-Europeans, which is an aristocratic family from Armenia.
Okay.
So again, we have the significance of Armenia. Armenia was also the birthplace of Mithraism.
Okay.
Or the House of Comagene. And they reproduce a very important bloodline called the House of Lusignan. And the House of Lusignan, it'll be too much to get into. There's just so many interesting threads.
Right.
Really.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you spell? Do you know how you spell Lusignan?
Lusignan.
And thanks. Okay, I'll have to check up on that later on then and find some more about that.
They basically become one with the Hospitallers.
Okay, really. So, let's.
And then, of course, the Knights of Malta.
I understand it. That's known to be that's the same order basically today. I mean, you can go into Wikipedia and see all these different branches of the same order. We're talking about the Knights Templar basically.
And why they are important is that they represent another important offshoot of this bloodline.
Okay.
And this bloodline re-enters to reunite with the lost bloodline of the Plantagenets to conclude the War of the Roses.
Okay.
I can't remember what her name is. She ends up being tried for a witch, of course. But it concludes the War of the Roses. The reason they're referred to as the Roses, there's two branches of the Plantagenets, the White Rose of York and the White Rose of Lancashire. The rose is a 5-petaled rose.
Yeah.
In other words, like the pentagram. The rose is a Kabbalistic symbol. The Zohar, which is the great book of the modern Kabbalistic tradition, begins with an exposition of the significance of the rose and the lily, which is referred to in the Song of Solomon as the rose of Sharon and the lily of the valleys. And it explains that the rose is the symbol, the rose and the lily are the symbol of the Jewish congregation.
Okay.
So that's the significance.
And this, the word of the rose is basically the
these bloodlines.
Yes, and the aftermath of that is, of course, that creates the Tudor line, and
exactly.
Basically you have the merger of the Lancaster rose and the York rose or York line at that point.
Exactly. And out of that, you have his daughter reigns Elizabeth. And I just wrote an article on that. And who was an occult princess? Queen. Her advisor was John Dee,
right,
who was the godfather of the Rosicrucian movement. And what's important here is that Elizabeth doesn't have an heir, so she's succeeded by James I. So now you have the Stuart bloodline descended from Malcolm III, along with some Sinclair infiltration, that finally comes to power in England. And this significance is not missed by the occult underground. Because what happens is that this becomes the basis of the birth of the Rosicrucian movement, which was born in the Palatinate in Germany. The significance of it, you have to read Francis Yates's book, The Rosicrucian Enlightenment. It's outstanding. I mean, this is true scholarship, except it deals with the occult. And I have never seen a true scholar dealing with occult subjects. And she points out that the significance of the Rosicrucian movement was outlined in the in what's called the chemical wedding. Chemical as in alchemical or hermetic wedding.
Sure.
And this is the wedding between Frederick of the Palatinate, the German prince, and the daughter, Elizabeth, of James I. This, again, represents another, if you follow these bloodlines, you'll see that they divided 400 years before. And that they are now being reunited. And the pattern is so clear, and that this becomes now the significance of this marriage, of this reunion of these two occult bloodlines.
What do you think? What do you think the point of that is, to split them off like that and then to rejoin them again? Is that to bring in a new blood into the line for some reason, or?
I guess I don't know. I guess they are. I don't know. You know, they're just separated. So this is a recombination to enhance the power. Maybe I don't know. But it's the pattern is so clear.
Right. Okay.
Like Diana is another one.
Spencer.
And,
Diana Spencer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and the distance is even longer. So what happens is that the occult underground use this as a pretext. What Francis Yates exposes that they then elect Frederick as king of Bohemia. Bohemia is the Kabbalistic center of Europe at the time, and is actually really to another tangent that goes too far. Never mind. And just remember Bohemia, and which in fact the Jews, which is where the Jews received their first flag, which is a red flag with a gold symbol of the Star of David, which is then used by the House of Rothschild, which is red again. I'll return to that one. Right. So, so it centers in Bohemia. They declare Bohemia, so the Catholics declare war. It begins the 30 Years' War, and the Rosicrucian movement ends in utter failure. So they seek refuge in England, and there they found Freemasonry. There was an important point. And I lost it.
Yeah, well, okay. I mean, we're basically the overarching heading here to the what we're talking about here basically is the Palladian Rite, and we're.
So I'll come back to. Well, I'll come back to that.
Okay.
So they established the Freemasons. So James I is succeeded by Charles I, and apparently the Freemasons are involved in a plot to execute him. He's replaced by Charles II. And he is succeeded by James II. And finally, James II is forced to abdicate. And who is he replaced by? He's replaced by the grandson of Elizabeth and Frederick, George I.
Okay.
So now finally this bloodline is reestablished over Europe, the Hanoverian dynasty, of which the queen now is descendant. Right. And I have a graphic of this family, and it's amazing how organized it is again, and can all be traced back to one person, which is George I. And you'll see that all the branches that are affiliated with this family are all the leading members of the Order of the Garter.
Ah, really?
The Order of the Garter goes back to when the Templars were forced underground in England and reemerged as the Order of the Garter. So now back to the significance of the Palladians. When the and the House of Rothschild. So the House of Rothschilds, I have no idea where they came from. A very interesting suggestion by Clifford Shack is that they are likely descendants of Shabbatai Zevi. Now, Shabbatai Zevi, this is another issue entirely separate,
Yeah,
which is
huge, very interesting, but a huge area. Yeah, continue.
All the significance is there. The modern evolution of Kabbalah begins with Isaac Luria, who created what's called a new Kabbalah. Mm-hmm. And the first important manifestation of Lurianic Kabbalah is Shabbatai Zevi, who declares, or Zvi, who declares himself Messiah in 1665 and marches to Constantinople in 1666. A very important date, obviously, and I believe wasn't missed. It was deliberate.
Right.
This rocks the Jewish world. That half of the Jewish population, and we have to kind of understand, we have to take off our modern biased lens and look at the situation how it really was. We think the Middle Ages were more backwards because they didn't have telephones, but it wasn't like that. This message spread like wildfire across, and we have to remember that the locus of civilization was not in Europe at this time; it was in the Middle East, particularly the Ottoman Empire, and there were other important locales across North Africa and Egypt and Palestine. Mm. And the Jewish diaspora was spread across these various centers. And all across them, they were swept by this wave of enthusiasm that the Messiah had arrived. That half the Jewish population of the world at the time believed in Shabbatai Zevi's claim, until he was given an ultimatum by the Sultan to choose Islam or death, and he chose Islam.
Right.
So a very interesting point is that there was a legend in the Middle Ages about the Red Jews that was very common amongst Jews. The Red Jews referring to the lost tribes of who they believed lived in Centralasia and who were red.
Okay.
So they believed that the Messiah was going, that they always believed that the lost tribes were going to come forth with the Messiah and help the Jews conquer the world. So this was being expected. And it was also believed that the lost tribes were also descended from Edom, as the Khazars and Thessians were believed to, and Armenians were believed to be descended from Edom, explaining their red hair.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so this is where you get the significance of the red. And there's also a very interesting book called Red Jews and Anti-Semitism. And this is a scholarly work. It's no exploration of occult history or anything like that. But explores the significance of this legend of the lost tribes amongst the Jews. Mm-hmm. So like I said, the Jews get their first red flag, and then eventually Jacob Rothschild, because the successor to Shabbatai Zevi is Jacob Frank.
Yeah, right.
And Jacob Frank, he mused about this significance of the mystery of Edom, which was considered kind of like the great secret of the Frankists. And according to Rabbi Antelman, the Rothschilds were Frankists. And that's how you get the significance. Mm. So while the Illuminati was supposedly disbanded, Jacob Frank's successor, Moses Dobruschka, who also I think went by the name of Schoenfeld, founded an organization called the Asiatic Brethren. And this Asiatic Brethren, according to Albert Pike, became the successors of the Illuminati. And the reason they called themselves Asiatic Brethren is because they were referring to the Asiatic mystics that the Templars had supposedly learned their doctrines from in the Middle East.
Okay.
In other words, the Ismailis. So this is a deliberate reference. The Asiatic Brethren were composed of Jews, Syrians, and Armenians mostly.
Okay.
So out of the Asiatic Brethren, you get offshoot organizations like the Golden Rosicrucians,